lots to talk about today. Some interesting things going on in the world of college athletics as we inch closer to getting to talk about actual games. Just 2 days away from the season beginning, and we've got 3 games this weekend: FSU and Georgia Tech, SMU and Nevada, and I'm blanking on the one that's in the middle of those two, who the other one is. But those are the 3 games that are this weekend.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We probably need to know what games are coming up. This college football show, it'd probably be a smart thing to kind of have battened down at this point. So Western Carolina and NC State is next Thursday, so it wouldn't be that. So, yeah, I don't even know.
Montana State at New Mexico is the other game. But, yeah, so FSU and Georgia Tech in Ireland at 11 o'clock Central. Montana State and New Mexico at 3 o'clock Central, and at 7 o'clock Central, SMU at Nevada. So those are the games that are all on Saturday. And then everybody else kicks it off starting on Thursday this week. So that is going to be good. But one person who will not be at his team's first game this year is Iowa coach Kirk Ferentz. He and assistant coach have been suspended for a recruiting violation that occurred when they were talking to Cade McNamara, I guess slightly before he was in the transfer portal or before they could talk to him, but they will have to serve a 1-game suspension. So I'm not sure of completely all the details of this, but Kirk Ferentz, of all the coaches that would be suspended for this, just because he's such a formulaic guy, I just never figured that would be kind of in his thing. But also they had to report a Caden Proctor violation as well that happened around a guy who went back and forth between them and Alabama and ultimately wound up back at Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, to your first point, I'm excited to have some games here to talk about. I mean, we've talked everything imaginable from pretty much every angle, and 2 times, 10 times over, depending on the subject, over the last few months, which has been fun. And some days have been a bit more electric than others when it comes to the news and just movements and things like that. But, I mean, we're all college football fans, at least I am. I'm not a college football fan because I can't await the next tweet from Brett McMurphy or Pete Thamel, with all due respect. I like watching the games. So I'm so excited that we're at that point where all of the stuff we've been talking about can now – be put to the test and be put up against other people's moves that they made, and see who emerges from what should be the most interesting and different college football season maybe any of us will ever see in our lifetimes, quite frankly, because I can't imagine, outside of something that is just changing the sport and the face of it in a significant way, of like cutting it in half or something along those lines, I can't imagine how you could have another year as different as this one coming up from what we're accustomed to. So, yeah, this is exciting. You actually missed the game, Paul. Delaware State and Hawaii also play this weekend. So there's actually 4 games this weekend. So, yeah, we need to get ready for 4 games on Saturday, and that starts from 11 a.m. all the way till an 11 p.m. kickoff, 10:59 p.m. in Hawaii, to be exact, against Delaware State. So 4 games this weekend. So that's exciting that we'll get that. But, yeah, on Iowa, that's, just kind of a quirky thing I didn't expect to see. I saw a fun meme where somebody had I guess it was the Parks and Rec skit where Ron Swanson's like using the computer. I don't know, I don't watch the show, but he's like using the computer, and he's got his little, what's her name?
April. April Ludgate.
Yeah.
I was thinking Aubrey Plaza's her
Aubrey
name,
Plaza, yeah.
April Ludgate is in the show.
Whatever. He throws the computer in the trash after he's using it or whatever, for whatever the purpose was. But if you went into it not knowing what the hell they were doing like me, but you just did the whole role of, it was Kirk Ferentz using the transfer portal for the first time. He gets busted, and then he throws it into the trash can. That was the purpose of it. And it played really well for somebody like myself who had seen the show. But yeah, there's Kirk Ferentz. He's like, all right, I'm going to crack this transfer portal. And then he gets suspended like the very first time, So that's kind of how it feels. It's not something, like I said, you expected to see probably. But that's notable. I think it'll be more notable if they look drastically different than expected on the field that first week. I've seen the joke made 1,000 times already of, what if they go and they score like 60 points in this opening game without him at the helm? That would be hilarious if they did that, but I don't think that'll be in the cards necessarily. So, yeah, just interesting, and goes to show you there actually are rules there are real rules that you have to follow that sometimes you can get in trouble for with the NCAA. So not a big deal in the long run. And Caden Proctor, that whole situation was just kind of funky. So I'm not surprised that there's something coming from that whole ordeal, just the way that he bounced from Bama to Iowa and then back to Bama. Like, that was just all very one of the stranger chapters, I think, in this early 2 or 3 years of the transfer portal. So yeah, they're served their punishment, and he'll be out that first game. But beyond that, not any huge ramifications. Certainly interesting, though.
By the way, Jack just sent me that meme there of that, and
I didn't know how to better describe it because, again, I don't watch the show, but I didn't know the context. But I knew that it fit the Kirk Ferentz, like, hey, I'm using the transfer portal, and then oops, and then just throw your computer away,
Yeah, the context was an episode where Ron found out that the government, like everybody else, is tracking us all the time.
Which they are.
Which he is very much not that way.
Yeah.
And so she had told him, like, hey, just put your name in here and hit enter. And then all the stuff came up and he just went through the computer away.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
That particular episode ends with him standing up holding a drone that he shot that was delivering a toy to his son without prompting. So
not a fan of the future.
Absolutely not. I actually think you would dig Parks and Rec if you ever got into it. It's one of those things. I think it's up your alley.
I'll say what everybody. I'll put it on the list.
Yeah,
right. That long list that we all have, the shows that we say we're going to watch that we probably don't ever get around to. Maybe I will. Maybe if we have another. That would be like a pandemic part 2 watch. I think for me, you'd have to carve out like time where like I have to eat up some time here. What all can I fit in? I'd probably slide that in that instance. And who knows? Maybe I'll catch an episode and get a hankering to dive in. But I'm kind of booked up right now.
That's The Walking Dead for me.
Yeah,
I'll never get around to it.
Don't even start. It's not. It's just pointless. It just keeps going and going and going and going, and there's no real.
And there's like 11 spinoffs.
Yeah, there's just no real. I like things kind of tidier, which is weird because I cover college football, which is anything but tidy. I guess that's where I get my fill of the messiness, is all of the craziness of college football. But yeah, I like things to get like tied up and have direction, and I feel like that show, based on the people who watch it religiously, like about 5 years ago, it stopped having like a real clear direction, and it's sort of just it's like zombies at this point. It's just continuing on.
Yeah, absolutely. They've become what they feared.
Basically.
The most. All right, next up, Craig, I talked about this for the entirety of the triple option today. So I'll get into my opinion lightly, but if you want to know my full thoughts on this, you can go back and watch that, because I did talk about it for about 45 straight minutes today. But Colorado and their special teams coordinator, Tyler Riley, parted ways a couple of weeks ago. And Sports Illustrated has obtained a letter, his resignation letter that he sent in. And part of that resignation letter was talking about what his NIL duties were, in addition to being special teams coordinator. And he had said he had gone out to hustle some money at certain places that Rick George and Deion Sanders let go because they didn't act on it. And one of those places was Saudi Arabia and the PIF, which is invested in Live Golf and trying to get in many, many other things, or not already in a lot of things. But he went there. We don't know the details of the meeting or whatever, but Colorado is not supplied money by the PIF as we stand right now. But this is interesting. This is the first college football foray we've seen legitimately into that, where somebody went and talked to them. Now, how Deion Sanders and Rick George feel about this overall, we don't know, because they have not commented on it yet. Eventually they will have to. But your thoughts on the PIF potentially being interested in college football?
We've heard that term and that PIF term thrown around a bit this summer, and so I don't really walk into this story completely just gobsmacked by, oh my God, what? Saudi Arabia in college football? I mean, we talked about this right earlier this summer, and the possibilities of them extending their tentacles into college sports, and how that would work and what that would look like. And so I guess the surprising thing here is just that there's some guy who was like a rogue agent to go and try to get PIF money to impress Colorado and get a sweet job out of it. That's just he
was working there already, But
so basically you probably think he was ordered to go do this, right?
I don't think he was necessarily ordered to do it, but did he pay for the trip to Saudi Arabia himself is the thing I'm wondering the most.
Well, I mean, in the letter that you're referring to, he says, like, I went to Saudi Arabia and I tried to hook up connections. And basically he said he was promised a special teams coordinator deal and then he'd make like $100,000 a year and all that. And so I guess there was some cross lines of communication with Colorado and this guy over Riley over what was actually agreed upon, I suppose. But yeah, I need more details on this because the idea of just some wannabe, I guess long-term assistant coach, or I don't know what his grand desires were, but like, did he like go to Saudi Arabia and like start doing this on his own, or just the whole idea of like taking the initiative, is something that you get complimented for and can work out really well for you in your career and in life. And so in some ways, it just sounds like he was taking the initiative, but it's like one thing to like, I'm going to take over this chore and I'll do it, or I'll get up earlier in the morning. It's another thing to like start talking with the Saudis about getting millions of dollars to pay the football team when you're just some dude on staff, basically. You're not Deion Sanders. That's the part that's like just really strange to me of like, how did that even sort of get hooked up and the ball rolling? He says he went to Saudi Arabia. So like, how did all that get going? That's the part that's of most interest to me and the most confusing, because do they just accept any, like, hey, just call a number, like, it's Todd with Colorado football, I'm interested in like getting some of y'all's money so we can pay recruits, like we set up a meeting, or I don't know. That's the part I'm interested to hear more about. But yeah, very strange. And because it's Deion, that people probably heard the headline and just made up their minds right away on one side or the other. I don't know, man. This is just very bizarre. And I, again, don't think it's all that surprising that people are looking into more ways to make NIL money, but just some rogue staffer like Connor Stallion style going over to Saudi Arabia to hook up more NIL money is just something that confuses me and doesn't make a whole lot of sense without a few more details. So, yeah, Colorado seems to say like this was his deal, and I don't know, man. I need to hear Deion's response to this and get a little bit more information on what exactly, was talked about and how all this was supposed to work, because it is very just sort of out of nowhere. Like the Kirk Ferentz thing is out of nowhere, but you're like, okay, yeah, sure, that happens. Like I could see it, especially the Caden Proctor thing. Like that was messy. It was a big time recruit bouncing around schools. You can see where there could be some tampering there. We're just surprised that anybody's got busted for tampering. That's what we're surprised by. Not that anybody's doing it. We're surprised that somebody actually got in trouble for it. This is a guy going over to Saudi Arabia, so it's way different and way more surprising just because it was not on my 2024 bingo card, if you will. So, yeah, what's your – I mean, you went 45 minutes on it. I went about 4 minutes. I don't have much more than that.
I just wanted to, like, put some clarity on the situation. And like I said, we don't know if Deion or Rick George had anything to do with this at all, other than maybe – I mean, because he was working there. I mean, this is his resignation letter. But, so he, of his own accord, went and was trying to hustle NIL money. The thing I wonder is, were you so convinced that this was going to work out for you that you paid for your own trip to Saudi Arabia? Like, that to me is strange. And look, who knows how you get hooked up.
That's what I mean is it's one thing if the PGA of America wants to go and meet with the Saudis, or if like the NFL, Roger Goodell, I know he knows who to call. I don't know. I never heard of this guy before today. Mm-hmm. And he's not like even a main position coach. No. So yeah, like that's what I'm talking like. The initiative's a hell of a thing. If like he just set this all up on his own and he went over to Saudi and he started talking with big brokers and possibly getting NIL money, then like more power to you, dude. Like I'm surprised you haven't gotten a raise. Instead, you're not on the staff anymore. So what the hell happened? And like how was that taken? Clearly not well.
In his letter, he says that they let it sit and let it go. So like he believes that there was an offer on the table from the Saudis that they let go, which I don't blame him. I did more of a larger look on the influence of like this kind of chase for private equity. And if this is really a thing with the Saudis, I think that we need to look a little deeper, much like with Live Golf. But like, let's not pin this on Deion. Like everybody sees big money Saudis and they think Deion Sanders, because he's a big money dude, and that he would automatically just be like, yep, don't care. Let's do it. I think my point was I didn't want it to. I wanted somebody out there like us to be able to say like, whoa. Deion's not going out and lunching with the Saudis trying to get money. This was someone who worked for him that did this. In what capacity, we don't know. Now, they have yet to comment, but they will eventually have to comment on it just to answer like, okay, look, this is how it happened. He did this. We didn't want it. And now he's not working here.
Yeah, so Colorado will speak at some point in time. I don't know if this turns into anything much more than just a sort of bizarre, out-of-nowhere story today or if there's lingering effects from it. But, yeah, I mean, he had contact with boosters. Clearly, he was getting it all together, seemingly. And from his point of view, Colorado dropped the ball. And from Colorado's point of view, they moved on from him, right? So clearly they didn't see eye to eye on that. I don't know. Does that mean we commend Colorado because they turned down the Saudi money? Or like, I don't know. Like I guess we don't root for anybody. I don't have to root for anybody, I guess. But yeah, I guess kudos to Colorado maybe for turning down the Saudi money or maybe they're just biding their time and they'll do that later. Regardless of this instance, I think that's a thing we're going to be talking about more and more. I just don't know to what extent, and I really hope it's not to a much larger extent. I know all of the conversations, I've come across a lot of them about why this is not a bad thing or why this is a terrible thing or, any opinion in between. I just like college football, man. I know it's changing. There's things that everybody's getting used to. I don't love the idea, though, of like the Saudi Arabians starting to live golf this thing. I really don't have any desire to see that, and not even if it gets Oklahoma 10 5-stars. There comes a point where it's like, let well enough be, and I don't think that this sport chasing Saudi money to be in this top tier and to be competitive year in, year out is really why I loved it to begin with. I know it's messy, but I don't know how I feel about that if that continues down that course. And so right now it's just a lot of talk, but if Florida State were to bite a big bullet and, take out like $500 million to get out of the ACC, then we're going to be inevitably talking about it again. And I guess kudos to this guy for his initiative, but I would love it if Colorado could find other ways to fundraise. And I guess they're deciding that they are going after different ways. So I guess props to them for that.
Yeah, we've got our first guest, Ben Peck, in about 10 minutes. So let's rattle through some of these. With the new scholarships and things available made in the House case, it does seem like it should be a good thing for most sports. But Ohio State has come out this week, and it's kind of thrown water on that a little bit, in that there will be some sports that start to act like club sports. There'll be some sports that get more. And I think the clarification here is that now there are more scholarships legally available, but each school has to decide if they want to do that or not. They have the discretion to fund scholarships to the level that is now available. So this is something we've talked about a lot in the expansion of conferences and how things change and where money goes and all of that, that some of the lower rung sports are going to get pushed off into the club sports realm. And the House case, while it could be good news for athletes in one regard, there's a lot of athletes who will not benefit from it at all and will be kind of punished for it tangentially because their sports will no longer be funded at the level at schools like Ohio State.
Yeah, I think this is one of those fears that people have had when it comes to just the landscape shifting and where the money's going and what that's all going to mean in the future. We just came off of a pretty great Olympics for the United States, and there was a lot of terrific college athletes who made up a lot of those gold medals and a lot of the silvers and bronzes and just the big moments as well. So I do think that's something that you need to be mindful of if you're the college sports community. I don't know if this is as much of a all these things are now going to go to the wayside and programs are going to die and all of that. I don't think that'll be the case across the board, but I do think there's no way all of this stuff could be shifting the way that it is. There's not going to be some collateral damage. Mm-hmm. And so if that's like the Montana volleyball program or something like that, then I don't think that'll come as a surprise at this stage, but it's certainly unfortunate that there might be less opportunities. I don't know, though. Has anybody figured out the Title IX component to this yet? Because that's not something that's just like, all right, no, you have to worry about this anymore. I mean,
no,
that's
they'll
not the
always
case.
have to. But
so
basically, you just have to. I mean, they'll get a very look. This is what happens with Title IX, is that schools get, and hopefully they've stopped doing it this way, because this is what led to like their inability to deal with sexual assaults on campus, is they give them a list and go, do these 10 things and you're Title IX compliant. And then they have somebody that goes through and goes, check, 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 check. And then once they've done those 10 things, they're technically compliant, but not, that doesn't mean that that it's right or good or functional. They're just compliant by the rules. So they'll do whatever checklist that is and then move on and then wait for the backlash again.
Yeah, and I'm sure Ohio State doesn't care all that much about it because they're big enough to let it, bounce off or to be able to defend it. And so I guess we'll see what the actual fallout from this is, not so much the warning shot or just the first headline of like, this could happen. I guess when something does happen, that will be obviously far more notable. But yeah, there's been a great concern about programs going to the wayside. Now, does every program need 30 other programs? Like, is there maybe a bit overkill, that there's some fat that needs to be trimmed? Probably. I do think it's unfortunate that there's probably going to be less opportunities. I also know, though, that, like, hey, if one or two sports are bringing in all the money and you just simply don't want to float, like, a 10th and 11th program that's not bringing in money, you can see also where, schools and departments are coming from. But, yeah, I look at it from the Olympic standpoint. I just hope it doesn't ruin that system, because that is our amateur sports system, and obviously it's been very successful for us here in America. So I'm sure there's going to be less opportunities in some cases in certain places, but I hope there's a way where we're able to maintain the status quo for the most part. You just might not have like a D3 school of gymnastics or something. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not as bad as the headline appears to be about cutting sports, but we are talking about Ohio State. So Ohio State cutting sports is not, insignificant. And those are pretty big opportunities that are going to the wayside. But I also think this is a place that we kind of knew we were headed when all this started with NIL, and that something was going to have to give when all the money is going to be concentrated on basically 2 to 3 sports, football and the 2 basketballs. And so beyond that, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a harder time for programs in certain places. And, yeah, there's going to be some collateral damage, which is unfortunate. But, again, we knew that we were going to arrive at this place. We just don't know yet to what extent it's going to be, how bloody it's going to get, so to speak, on what all gets cut, where it gets cut, and how much that adds up to in the end.
All right. It's finally happened, everybody. All of our hopes and dreams have come true. General Booty has now been named a starter at a college program. He's the starter at ULM. So his journey to being a starting quarterback finally has become a reality, and he's the starting quarterback at ULM.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, my thoughts on, congratulations to him, the former Oklahoma quarterback. But, man, I'm sure he probably got made fun of a little bit growing up, made fun of even now for the name. But we've talked about him like 100 times over the last 2 years just because his name's funny, and for really no other reason than that. Maybe a little bit of football sprinkled in. But, he's got a funny name, and he'd be on the all-names team, and good for him on getting the starting quarterback job at ULM. Obviously, I know him. I don't want to say I know him, but I know his background a little bit because he played at TJC, which is where I'm from, back in East Texas. So I heard a lot of good things about him, and a lot of people who were very excited when he first arrived at Oklahoma. But that's just, that wasn't Jackson Arnold and Dylan Gabriel. Like, there just wasn't room for him to be the starting quarterback. So go on, young man, and do your thing and go make your NIL money and sell. I don't know how many T-shirts he ended up selling last year, but go put up some big stats and some big T-shirt sales and have a season, man. Good luck to you. But he's got a lot of mileage out of just having that name for certain. But now he's getting some attention because he's the starting quarterback, and hope he tears it up.
All right, Texas has got a transfer running back that was previously at SMU and Kansas, which, there are still people in the transfer portal, and you can go get them. So,
which I learned. I didn't realize you could do. I didn't know there are dudes just still sitting there. You could go pluck a week before the season started.
Yeah. I kind of thought there would be like some sort of avenue for that, but I didn't realize, how it worked. So, Velton Gardner. So he's there and adds depth to a position that has been ravaged by injuries in the last 2 weeks. So I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of Velton Gardner, but at least they've got some depth there now.
Yeah, I mean, I did see, like when every school picks up a recruit, it's like, boom. It's like 2-star tackle from, whatever, like, boom. That's kind of how that felt. I saw like a reaction. It was just somebody random. Like it might have been a 10-year-old kid for all I know. So I don't want to like bag on it too much, but it was like massive pickup and it's like, he's available the week before the season starts. But in terms of depth, yeah, I mean, they definitely needed somebody and needed a big, boost when it came to their numbers. So he provides that. He provides another body for a running back room that's been ravaged pretty good over the past couple of weeks. I don't know how much you expect him to play or to get carries or whatever, but they clearly needed some help. That's why they were out looking, and he's going to be able to provide that for them, and was at SMU previously, so familiar with the state of Texas, and what a story for that young man. I would love to know more about like where he was and what his plans were for this upcoming football season, because all of a sudden you're living a dream that like hundreds of thousands of kids who are probably better than you, quite frankly, did not get to live out. Maybe not. I'll take that back. Hundreds of thousands, maybe not, but thousands of kids who wanted a Texas offer but could never get that, right? And he's just like, I don't know what his situation is, but you weren't on a team with a week and a half to go in the season, and now you're on the Texas Longhorns. Like that's a pretty crazy change in life that I don't know if you saw that coming if you were Velton Gardner, you just trusted yourself, or you're just lucky as hell. I don't know, but good for him and good for Texas to find a running back to hopefully help out what's ailing them with all of the injuries, and we'll see how much he actually plays. But yeah, I mean, it made sense that they needed to go and find somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. Just real quick, Colorado has released a statement to Front Office Sports on Trevor Riley's efforts to secure NIL funding from the PIF. They confirmed it was his decision, citing his own comments, and the school also pointed out he's no longer on staff. According to Trevor Riley himself, he acted on his own accord and is no longer an employee of the university. So there you go.
Yeah, and I mean, he went to Saudi, but he also went to Jordan, right? Like, so he was jet setting, and I read a couple more quotes as we were kind of going through that, and yeah, I mean, it sounds like if you believe that Connor Stallions really had nothing to do with anything, which I know we all know that's BS. Yeah. Like he totally was talking to Harbaugh or through somebody. Like we know that. We know that. This does sound, when you read the quotes, though, like a dude who did like truly act on his own. And the way that he talks about all of the money that he spent to travel and all of the Mormon goodwill that he used
used up.
Or that he used up all the, like he said it was like $1 trillion, like in Mormon goodwill or whatever the exact quote was. It's just again, a weird story sort of out of nowhere. And you wonder like, what did Colorado know? But you can make a pretty strong case just based on his own words that, this was this guy going out on his own and trying to make something happen and, trying to I don't know, just be the guy leading the charge and getting their NIL right and probably getting rewarded for it. So yeah, it sounds like, hey, they paid him nearly $100,000 and he was doing special teams work and all that. I don't know what his grand aspirations were, but he's a go-getter. Yeah. That's what you can certainly see. You can put that on the resume. You got to put, why'd you leave Colorado so abruptly? Well, I had to tell them after they wouldn't, go along with my Saudi and Jordanian deals that I was no longer wanted, but somebody might find that attractive. You got ties in the Middle East. You can go do business for us. Yeah, that's a weird story. But so Colorado's just saying we had nothing to do with this, basically. Is that what you said?
Yeah. He did this on his own.
It sounds like that could be the case. Yeah. I mean, it does, based on his own words. So if that's what happened, then Colorado didn't have anything to worry about. And I don't think they have anything to worry about in general because this isn't illegal, but it's weird.
But they also didn't take it. They're not.
Yeah, no. So they didn't have anything to worry about in general, but it's just a weird story.
Yeah. Then the headline is like Colorado football seeks Saudi NIL funding. It's kind of all over the place. Well, no, Trevor Riley did. Yeah. Like he was working for them at the time.
Assistant after Colorado.
Exactly. Absolutely.